Tonight, I'm going to interview American author of 5 best-selling books about business, work, and management, Daniel H. Pink. What motivates you to do your best work, and how do you get the best out of the people who work for you? These are the questions Daniel Pink answers in his book, Drive. Danielle, thanks for being here tonight.
It's a pleasure, Stephanie.
Your book was really fascinating, and I was surprised to know that science for a long time has known what truly motivates people, but business hasn't really caught up to it. What is it?
Well, Stephanie, we have all kinds of motivation. We have biological motivation, which we drink when we're thirsty, we eat when we're hungry. We also have a rewards and punishment motivation, and that responds very well to our environment. But we also have another type of motivation, which is we simply do things because they're interesting, because we're good at it, because it's fun, and because we get better at it. And this makes a contribution overall. And what research has shown entirely is that the second drive, this very carefully architecture of carrots and sticks, is effective for short-term goals and also for simple tasks. But for complicated tasks and long-term goals, this can actually backfire. And this intrinsic motivation, this third drive, is actually much more powerful.
Why does business so focus on external motivation and not intrinsic motivation?
I think it's a few things. First is that's how we've always done it, and they do work. If you want me to jump over this table here, I have no intrinsic motivation to do so. But if you said, hey Daniel, here's a $100 bill, jump over this table, I'm going to take a few steps back and jump over this table. So they do work, and they also work in the short term, and they're also very easy. Tapping into someone's intrinsic motivation, there's need for autonomy, there's need for mastery, it's much more difficult.
About the 3 parts of intrinsic motivation.
Yeah, while in the workplace, people have to be paid well enough, or else they're not going to be motivated to do anything at all. Same goes for being treated fairly. If you're being treated unfairly, you're not going to be motivated to do anything. But if you look at the research, past a certain point, what really motivates people is the ability to direct their own lives, to have that control of their time and in what they do. Mastery, Harvard research just released that the biggest motivator at work is the making of progress. It isn't incentives. It's the feeling of making progress and, finally, purpose. We want to do things that matter and make a contribution that are connected to a broader purpose, something bigger than yourself, like
something bigger than yourself, like altruism or esteem of your peers?
Exactly. Like Steve Jobs didn't get into business to make a quick buck, to make a profit. Steve Jobs created Apple because he wanted something that wasn't out there, and he was motivated to do so.
We've seen from recent surveys that most Americans aren't satisfied with their work, and those numbers are getting worse and worse. And if you're in that boat, how'd you motivate yourself, Daniel?
It's very difficult. Those numbers were an alarm for offices across the country because it's a double whammy. What people were complaining about is, in part of the recession and the high levels of unemployment, they were complaining about the low pay and that their work wasn't really interesting. If you want to have a perfect recipe for low motivation, that is it. So I think that one important thing that we should always do is to make sure that people are paid enough. If people are underpaid, you don't have a chance. Once you do that, it's possible to sculpt jobs, and individuals in some ways can shape their own work. And by that, they can be more autonomous. For example, a hospital janitor, he comes in, sweeps up, leaves. Not a very interesting job, right? But if, take an example, a different hospital, that same janitor or a different janitor comes in and sweeps up, talks to a patient here and there, or helps a nurse out from time to time, research has shown that that hospital janitor has shown more interest in his jobs and is more happy about his jobs than the other janitor at the other hospital. And that hospital janitor has a higher chance of moving up in the ranks than the other janitor. And because he's sculpting his own job, he's kind of going outside the lines. And by this, he's making it more interesting for himself.
Suppose I'm managing a group of people. Can you give me some tips on how to get them motivated?
There's all kinds of interesting ways. and examples of one is there's a company called Atlassian, and what they do is they have a day called a FedEx Day, and it's a software company, by the way. And what they tell their employees is basically, for the next 24 hours, you can do whatever you want, do whatever you want, with whatever you want, how you want it. And it turns out that this one day of intense autonomy has produced fixes for existing software, new ideas for a product that would have not otherwise have been emerged. Part of it is if you're a manager, it's so interesting. In business, we tend to have this notion, especially managers, that they're left alone, they're basically lumps, and they will never do anything. So you gotta have that stick or that carrot waiting for them. That's how people are. They're nerd lumps. And what's curious is that no manager ever believes that about him or herself. They only believe about other people. But if you say, maybe people kind of are like me, they can actually want to do something that matters. Maybe they want to do the work. Then you can, maybe say, maybe I should get out of their way a little more. And the signs do show that. Maybe I should recognize making progress is really important in job satisfaction. So what I can do as a manager is help people make that progress, or help them recognize that progress when it's made. And the most important thing for a manager is, explaining what we're doing and infusing it with some sense of purpose. People are working their butts off, as many people, in this economy, long days, hard work, taking, other kinds of assignments. A manager can come in and say, listen, here's what's going on. This is what you're doing is important. This is why it's important. And all these mechanisms that I'm talking to you today about they're free. We want to talk about any investments, any compensation out of the company's pocket. All this is free.
Good. So we don't need monetary carrots. We need autonomy and motivation carrots and purposefulness.
Right. Well, we need money. If you're not getting enough money, this conversation is over. But once you get that, holding on to an additional promise of money is very motivating to people, but it doesn't necessarily motivate them to do the right things. It can motivate people to cheat. It can also, be terrible for creative tasks. If you say, hey, I want you to come up with a creative idea, and if you do, I'll give you $10,000. You got my attention. But what you've done is, you've got my attention, but you've focused all my attention on that $10,000. And creativity doesn't require that laser beam focus. It requires looking around and a broader way of thinking. The evidence, it's not even a close call in behavioral science. These if-then rewards, if you do this, then you get that, they're terrible. They're terrible for creative tasks. They simply just do not work.
And in a world where creative tasks are where the future lies.
It's where most of us are doing that kind of work. What we have is this carrot and stick motivation, this system, this technology that's outlived its usefulness. We need a kind of update.
All right. This is very interesting, Daniel.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you.
In conclusion, Daniel H. Pink explains that rewards don't work. People are more motivated by internal factors than by external drivers. Once basic financial needs are met, people are more motivated by having a desire for mastery, a sense of autonomy, self-direction towards a driving purpose. External motivating factors, especially money, tends to kill intrinsic motivation, leading to reduced levels of motivation.